Hey guys, this is the Conspiracy Dentist, and today we're going to be talking about another proof that the moon landings were fake. We're going to compare the Artemis II to the Apollo 8, or the Artemis II mission is going to just fly around the moon. This is not going to happen anytime before September of next year at the earliest. But Apollo 8 already did this. In fact, they did exactly what the Artemis II is going to do faster, and they did more things. They orbited the moon, and they got way closer to the moon. And they did all this with a rocket that was inferior and it weighed more. So how is this possible? But let's look at this in a little more detail. Artemis 2, they're going to send 4 astronauts. It's going to take 10 days. It's probably going to be more like 11 or 12 when it happens. No earlier than September of next year. It's going to be a flyby, meaning they're not going to orbit the moon. They're going to go in the SLS rocket, Space Launch System. This is the capsule right here, the Orion capsule. What the deal is, mission duration 21 days. It's going to take them 10, probably 11 or 12 days to get to the moon and back. So they talk about going to the moon and beyond. Well, they're going to be using 10 days to get to the moon and back. So I don't think they're going to be going to Mars on this thing. So I guess the only other option they would have is like maybe go a little further than the moon and maybe check out some asteroids or something. But it's really not going to be good for anything except going to the moon and back. And how does it compare to the Apollo 8 mission that was done in 1968? This is when I was born. I was born in January of 1968. So this thing is this was like 56 years ago. Okay, and what did Apollo 8 accomplish? They launched in 1968, December 21st. This was a 6-day mission, and it only took them 68 hours to travel to the moon. Let's compare that with so 68 hours is like 2 and 3/4 days. The Artemis II is going to take 4.5 days to get there, and 4.5 days to get back. The Apollo 8 got back in 2.4 days, and they also orbited the moon 10 times, whereas the Artemis II is just going to fly by the moon, and that's it. No orbiting the moon. Why? I mean, because the Artemis 3 is supposedly going to land on the moon, so all we're going to do is fly by the moon here. Plus, the closest to the moon, the Apollo 8 got into an orbit around the moon. It was 69 miles in altitude. Well, the closest Artemis 2 is supposedly going to get to the moon is 6,479 miles. Okay, so according to this map, 11 lunar flyby, 6,479 miles lunar far side altitude, average. So the closest they're going to get to the moon is 6,479 miles, whereas Apollo 8 was 69 miles from the moon. The diameter of the moon is 2,159 miles. So 69 miles would be really close to the moon. Okay, but the 6,479 miles that the Artemis 2 is going to get to the moon is like, okay, the diameter of the moon is 2,000. So you're talking here, this is way closer than it's going to get. It's actually going to be 2, 4, 6. It's going to be about this far from the moon if you use the moon here as scale, whereas Apollo 8 was like right in here. Also, this is not drawn to scale. The Earth and the moon are way further apart than what this picture shows. 30, it would be 30 Earth diameters. So this is like 2 Earth diameters. So you can take the moon out about 15 times further is what would look like if drawn to scale. Okay, to look at this again here, Apollo 8, 56 years ago, Apollo 8 went to the moon in 2.75 days. They orbited the moon 10 times, which took 20 hours. They came back in 2.4 days. Artemis 2, supposedly not going to go any sooner than September of next year. It's going to take them 4.5 days to get to the moon, 4.5 days to get back. They're not going to orbit the moon. They're just going to fly by at an altitude of 6,400 miles, whereas the Apollo 8 orbited the moon at 69 miles high. This is 100 times further away. The rocket system, they used the Apollo 8 went there with the Saturn V. The Artemis II is going to use SLS. The maximum thrust of the Saturn V was 7.5 million pounds of thrust. The SLS is 8.8 million pounds of thrust. And the liftoff weight of the Saturn V was 6.2 million pounds, and the SLS is 5.75 million pounds. So they had a much more powerful rocket that weighed less, and it's going to take them twice as long to get there, and they're not even going to orbit the moon, and the closest they're going to get is 100 times further away to the moon. And plus, we've also got navigation systems. Back in the 1968, the Apollo, they had a sextant, which was basically what people in boats used. They look at the stars and they measure the angles and they figure out where they're at. Well, and then they enter this information into this computer that they had on board the Apollo 8, which was 1/1,000,000th of the computing power that they have nowadays. So now they have computers that are 1,000,000 times more powerful. They have sensors that automatically measure all of these stars and everything, so they know pretty much exactly where they're at. And the closest they're going to venture to get to the moon is 6,500 miles away. Does this all make sense? Are they being just a little bit too careful? Why does it take twice as long to get to the moon? With more powerful rockets, you can't get very close to the moon. To me, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they really didn't do this 56 years ago. I think they over-promised what they could do, and now they're trying to do it, and this is the best they can do right now, taking it slow and easy because they don't want to kill anybody. But that's what I think. I think this is pretty strong proof that the moon landings are fake back then, and that they're really trying to do it now. Or else they would just say, "Oh yeah, we're going to get there in 1.5 days." Yeah, if they were faking it now, they would fake it better than what they did 65 or 56 years ago. They would get there faster. They would, fake orbiting the moon. They would do, if they were really faking it this time, which I don't think they are, they would make it look better than what they did back then. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think in the comments below, and please like and subscribe. Thanks.